Wake Up.
Speak up.
This is the Battle High School Wake Up Interact podcast.
Our goal is to inform and educate on challenging topics,
all while having a respectful and engaging dialogue.
My name is Morgan McBee, and I am the officer of Wake Up Speak Up podcast, and I am so glad to have Emily Hammond on the podcast with me today.
Hey Morgan, I am excited to be here, and oh boy, I have a topic for you today.
Well, what is it?
I have no idea what Wake Up is all about. Probably let me know your spicy secrets.
I am so glad you asked, because that's what this introduction episode is all about. I will talk about the start of this club, its goals, the podcast goals, the typical layout of a podcast, some friendly reminders, and how our amazing, beautiful, handsome, intelligent listeners can react to something that they've heard.
Wow, sounds like a lot to get through. How long will it take? Should I get a snack?
Oh, of course, we always have time for a snack, and I would also love if our listeners got up, grab a snack, drink some water, do a little bit of self-care before we start.
Wake up, speak up, podcast.
Wow, these raisins and peanut butter really do make it different.
Yes, I would highly recommend. Okay, so let's talk about the start of this club and what we're all about. All the way back in 2014, before the worldwide pandemic and election, there was the tragic killing of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, which in turn led to a nationwide protest against police brutality.
That's horrible. That's not too far away from here, is it? It's like less than 2 hours.
You are so right, and that's why it struck the hearts of many high school students at Battle so intensely that they knew that they had to take a different approach to the anger and confusion that they felt. So they decided to start a club around dialogue. They gave voices to those who were not being heard and to discourage one-sided debates with a winner and a loser.
Okay, that's really cool. And I know this will need a sponsor, so tell me about those amazing people.
Of course, so Wake Up is actually an Interact club, which means that we have a Rotary connection that helps us with projects and they give us mentoring. We owe a huge thank you to Metro Rotary and Sunrise Southwest in Columbia, Missouri. Our special mentors are Sarah Reed, Loretta Stroudon, Lori Mays, and Amy Jamay.
Amazing. These are super cool humans. And what's the aim of Wake Up?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Okay, so our president, Maya White, says, the purpose of Wake Up Interact is to promote self and community awareness and productive actions towards a more inclusive and understanding society through dialogue and grassroots outreach programs.
Now I quote, lots of good words. What does it mean though, like in English?
Oh, right, of course. So what this means is basically that we want to become involved in our community by doing stuff like this podcast or speeches or social media or community dialogue. And through this involvement, we want to teach people to have conversations and not debates. And then we want those people to take that and apply that to real life situations.
That's really cool. And tell me about the podcast. Like, what are your goals? What's the purpose?
Right. So for the podcast, we want it to be an open and safe place to have actual discussions about difficult topics. We want these discussions to include more than one point of view. We want them to be based on facts as well as opinion. I want to hear your all's comments and opinions as well. Yep, you as a listener, the person listening to this right now, I know you have access to some type of technical device because you're listening to me right now. That's right, just broke the third wall. Welcome. So go ahead and head over to our Padlet board at padlet.com/battlewakeup, or you can check the link in the descriptions.
Yes, we love audience participation. I imagine that all of our viewers will remember to be respectful to each other, as well as use this as an opportunity to express their point of view, comments, questions, and suggestions they might have. And after someone makes a comment, then what?
Well, our admin have access to the board so they can reply to their comments. And if we have enough audience participation, we might be able to do a little mini episode where we come back, we do some more research, and we take your guys' point of views and we express them in the podcast.
Your participation means so much to us, and if you refer us to a friend or family member, you can give you a shout out on the podcast or on our social media. If you don't want that, that's totally okay. We can send you a virtual hug, high five, gold star, whatever you're into.
Fantastic. Okay, so another great way that you guys can interact with us is to shoot us an email at battlewakeup@gmail.com. So in the subject, I want you guys to go ahead and say that this is for Wake Up, Speak Up, for the podcast or something like that, so we know it's for us and it doesn't get off ends.
Now that we know what we want our audience to do, what should they expect from us as far as content? I mean, I could do some raisin and peanut butter ASMR if they really wanted.
Well, another great question. First of all, please do not expect a consistent upload schedule. As I imagine, we will have many technical difficulties as well as we have rotating schedules. So second off, we will have kind of a general outline that we follow for any given podcast. And that basically is we'll have an intro with our introduction theme. We will go over introducing our guests, our podcast update. We will link where our audience can reach us, where we will link our socials, and we'll have an overview of our topic. Our first round, we will have our hosts and guests give their opinions and facts on the topic at hand. Our second round, we will have an open discussion and talk about the topic and interact with each other. Our third round, we will kind of close out with any new conclusions that we came to, and we'll have closing thoughts and statement. Lastly, in closing, we will restate our socials, restate where our audience can reach us. We will thank our guest hosts, and they can promote themselves wherever they want to do that. We will restate announcements, and of course, we're going to thank our listeners. Also, our show notes will be given at some point, so you guys can easily track back all of our links and of our resources and social media and a transcript of this episode.
Sounds like a pretty broad plan. And what type of topics are we talking about? Maybe some crazy topics too?
Oh, yeah, pretty much anything under the sun that is somewhat of a difficult topic to talk about. It is easy to have dialogues about what you had for dinner or coffee or tea is better, because obviously it's coffee, and if you think anything else, you're an uncultured swine, so.
Seeing now attacking someone like that and name calling, that does not seem like a productive conversation. Is someone being a hypocrite?
Oh, absolutely. We are going to talk about sensitive topics like race, gender, culture, mental health, psychology, topics, religion, life's hardships, pretty much anything that you can have more than one point of view on.
So what's going to keep me from ripping your head off and listening to wrong? Is it because against my beliefs?
Well, first of all, there are no wrong answers, and these are about opinions and facts that have been well researched. So we follow some basic procedures and guidelines, and you guys, our listeners, can follow these in real life as well, and they'll help you have productive dialogues and conversations. So before we start, we're going to set the tone and we're going to set our boundaries. We're going to make sure that all of our hosts and guests know that this is going to be a time of difficult discussion and not debate. There are no right answers. We want to acknowledge our vulnerability. These topics are going to make you feel vulnerable. It is super important that you don't push back against that and you don't feel defensive while talking about this. We want to listen to understand and not respond. It is super important that our listener is trying to expand their point of view and come to a middle ground and not reply to rebuttal. Maybe take some notes while you're listening to make sure that you're being an active listener. Pause. We can take a pause at any time that we want. If the topic gets intense, if someone is not being respectful, if someone needs a minute, they are more than welcome to take a pause, to take a break, to regain their senses. We can always edit that out later. Lastly, we want to share our takeaways at the end. What did you learn from listening? How did you grow? And then where were you challenged?
Any guest or host can use this at any time?
Oh, yes, of course. We want this to be enjoyable and lovely for everyone, not just another political family Thanksgiving.
Oh my goodness. So just to make track of everything, this club and podcast is centered around dialogue about tough topics, and we'd love to hear from our audience.
Yes, that's right. And before we head out today, let's do a little recap. What did you learn? Did you learn anything new? Do you have any opinions that changed? How was this overall for you?
I learned a lot today. This sounds like a really cool podcast with some great ideas. I love seeing students reaching out and making a difference. Thank you for having me today.
Yes, of course. I'm so glad that you were able to make it. Those were all some great points. I learned a whole lot about producing and editing and publishing the podcast and stuff like that. And that raisinets and peanut butter are an amazing snack. Before we leave, I want to remind you guys again that you can follow us at wakeupbattle_ on Instagram. You can comment about what you've heard at padlet.com/battlewakeup, or you can email us at battlewakeup@gmail. You can also find our show notes in our Padlet board, and they will be linked in the description as well.
And of course, a huge thank you for our audience staying with us, to our adult sponsors, Mr. Ledgman and Mrs. Lang, as well as our Interact groups at Rotary Sunrise Southwest and Metro Rotary.
Wake up. Speak up. Podcast.